especially in the light of action by certain authorities, especially at the state level, to taking decision to withdraw money from private sector banks. The Reserve Bank of India, from RBI, we have written to all state governments, impressing upon them that the Indian banking sector is sound and safe, and Indian banking sector includes the private sector banks. We have specifically indicated that the health of the banking sector, including the private banking sector, is sound and safe, and therefore there is no reason for state government authorities to withdraw deposits or to take deposits or to keep away from the private sector banks. Private sector banks are an important component of our banking sector, and therefore it would be necessary that in the interest of financial stability, in the interest of banking stability, that the various authorities, both at the central and at the state government level, they continue their confidence on the private sector banks. I am also happy to note that during all these months, when there were stories about Yes Bank having increasing difficulty, large number of depositors of Yes Bank have remained loyal, and they are still with the Yes Bank. I do expect and appeal to them to continue their confidence and loyalty to the Yes Bank. And you have the big names of Indian banking sector which are there participating in the revival plan for revival of the Yes Bank. And we have also, I think the one next point I would like to mention is that the Yes Bank has enough liquidity to meet any requirement. If, I repeat, if there is a requirement, the Reserve Bank will provide necessary liquidity support to Yes Bank to meet its requirements if such a requirement arises. So that is a comforting factor for the depositors, that the Reserve Bank will support the Yes Bank with liquidity if it is required. And we are quite, at this point of time, our interaction with the investing banks, the state bank and the other private sector banks, our interaction with them gives us the confidence that the revival of Yes Bank will work out. It's a sound revival plan and it's a robust revival plan. So before I conclude this part relating to Yes Bank, I would again reiterate the depositors to remain confident that their money is safe. Now coming to the COVID-19 outbreak, I would like to state as follows. The COVID-19 outbreak, now a pandemic according to the WHO, is rapidly evolving into a human tragedy, disrupting economic activity in a wide swath of affected countries. Financial markets across the world are experiencing intense volatility, and financial conditions have tightened worldwide. Policy authorities have responded with emergency measures, and more recently advanced economies have coordinated large policy rate reductions with activation of swap lines as well as quantitative and credit easing. Tentative estimates of consequent loss of global growth are currently placed in the range of 0.4 to 1.5%. India is not immune to this pandemic. Already more than 100 cases have been reported. Efforts are being mounted by the government on a war footing to arrest the spread of coronavirus through social distancing, preventive measures, and by issuing health advisories. COVID-19 could impact economic activity in India directly through trade channels, especially in electronics, drugs, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, etc., in which the exposure to China is relatively high. Second round of effects of the pandemic could operate through a slowdown in the domestic economic growth. And it would obviously be a result of a side of a synchronized slowdown in global growth, and as a part of that, the growth momentum in India also would be impacted somewhat. How much? We're going into the monetary policy meeting. As and when it is held, we will take a clearer view of the impact of the global slowdown on the Indian economy. So I would like to say that the second round effects of pandemic could operate through the slowdown in global growth. Already sectors such as, I'm now talking about global as well as India, already sectors such as tourism, airlines, the hospitality industry and domestic trade and transport are suffering a loss of activity. More immediately, spillovers are being transmitted through finance and confidence channels to overseas and domestic equity markets. Forex and bond markets are also not immune to the current volatile conditions. There is considerable uncertainty about the duration of the pandemic, and the currently available estimates of its adverse effects will undergo sizable revisions if this coronavirus persists longer or if it gets contained much earlier than currently believed. It is important to ensure that policy reactions are carefully considered and calibrated so as to assuage sentiment and instill confidence. In this context, the Reserve Bank has been taking several calibrated measures over the past few days to ensure that financial markets and institutions remain sound and resilient, and also to build confidence more generally in the financial system. In fact, the lack of response to our 7-day repo auction of rupees 25,000 crore, which was conducted on March 13th, has reassured us that domestic liquidity conditions remain comfortable. It is important that policy space is used appropriately and is suitably timed to optimize its impact.